Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be recreating my go-to makeup look. This video was requested by a follower of mine, so I'm just going to show you guys what I apply most of the time when I do my makeup and how I apply it. And along the way, I'm going to try to give you guys like tips and like things that I do to get my makeup to look the way it looks when I do my face. First, I did my brows off camera just to save time. I always do my brows with either the Anastasia Dip Brow in the color dark brown, or I do it with the NYX Micro Brow Pencil and fill them in, and then I conceal around my eyebrows with the NARS Soft Matte Concealer in the color Cafe. So this is basically how I do my brows. If you guys want a more detailed video on this, I do have a brow video on my channel. So we're just gonna jump into everything else that I do, so just to save time. So I tend to never really prime my face, but for those of you guys who do, and I think you should probably, because it's going to be better for your skin. So this is the NARS Pore and Shine Control Primer. I'm just using the sample of it to test it out, just because I haven't found a primer that I really like. So I'm just going to put this primer all over my face. I forgot I did my eyebrows and I put it right on top of the makeup. So yeah, my face looks really ashy, but so then after the primer, like I said, I don't always apply primer, but for this video I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go in with my foundation next. So I think I'm going to use this foundation because I also have my Fenty here. I'm just showing you guys different options that I have in terms of foundation, what I would usually typically go for. So these are my shades in these colors right here. So the NARS is in the color Manus. The Fenty is 440, and then the Lancome is 530. So I'm just gonna go with the NARS because I'm using a mattifying primer. So instead of putting my Lancome or maybe my Fenty, which is like a more soft matte or matte foundation, I'm gonna use something that's the opposite, so that way my skin doesn't look super dry. I tend to do this because I feel like it makes your skin look more skin-like instead of trying to get that mattified look, which I don't really like if it's too matte and it looks unnatural. So I apply the foundation, most of it in the center of my face, so concentrating in like under my eyes and a little bit on my forehead. So if you want to get the most coverage for your foundation, you can also conceal under your makeup. Sometimes I do that if I feel like it, but because it's full coverage, I'm not gonna really bother. But if you wanted to do that, you can conceal under your makeup. So like I would conceal under my eyes mostly just to get rid of the darkness, and then I would apply my foundation. So then I'd use less foundation because I already corrected most of the blemishes to begin with, if that makes sense. So for this, I'm just gonna use the foundation, nothing under it, just because I don't really need it for this foundation because it's more full coverage. But if it was something that was lighter, then I probably opt to put the concealer under my eyes before applying. So I always use the same brush when applying my foundation, and this is like an e.l.f. brush, which you can find anywhere, any like drugstores. You can find it at Target, Walmart, CVS, and it's just the only brush I've used. I don't really have really expensive foundation brushes. I think that these brushes do the job just fine, and I usually just go in a circular motion on my face to get the product to go like onto my skin. And of course you can add more or less, of course you can add more if you feel like you need more coverage. So I'm just gonna add more here, again still concentrating most of it in the middle of my face. So once I feel like it's blended out well and that you can't really see where the foundation starts, it makes it easier to blend when you concentrate most of it in your face, as opposed to if you had foundation all on the perimeter, it'd be hard to blend out the edges and make it look like you don't have 100 like layers of foundation on. So this is kind of like what I typically do. And then I usually go in with the NARS Soft Matte Concealer. If I don't use this, the next concealer I'm most likely to use is my LA Girl Pro Concealer in the color like Chestnut. I find that color works really well for me. So Yeah, I use the LA Girl Pro Concealer in the color Chestnut if I don't use my NARS Soft Matte in the color Cafe. So because this is out and I can't find my brush, I'm just gonna go ahead and use the LA Girl Pro Concealer. I use these two concealers the most, even though I have like several concealers, because they're full coverage and I like the colors of them. And because I use a color like this, this makes my makeup look more natural and less like overdone. I use a color that's fairly close to my skin tone. So this is the color I'm using under my eyes. This is like, again, like a go-to like regular day makeup. Nothing for like if I'm being dramatic or anything like that. But this is typically the color I do. So then I just put the concealer under my eyes, on my nose, forehead, and a little bit on my chin. Sometimes I put it on my upper lip, but most of the time I do it like this. I do it in a triangle motion. I don't take it all the way to the top because that's going to make my face look wider. So I just concentrate it like right in the middle. But if you want to make your face look wider, you could bring it up higher, I guess. But that's usually how I apply it. Okay, so then I let that sit a little bit for more coverage. If you let your concealer sit for some time, it gives you more coverage when you blend it out and set it. This is a tip from like Jackie. And I tend to do that with most of my concealers, unless it's one of those that dries really fast. And then for the contour, I tend to use my Bobbi Brown in the color 10. This is a foundation, a compact foundation, but I use it because it's dark enough for my skin. If I don't use that, then I use my Lancome foundation stick in the color 555 and use that as like a contour shade for my face, so you can see how that looks. So then once I'm done with that, then I blend out my concealer and contour. One advice or like thing I would say for anyone is to invest in the beauty blender, because it does make a huge difference in how you apply your makeup. So although it's kind of like expensive, it does last a long time and you can use it over and over again. Like you could just wash it and use it forever. So I just, you know, buy it for that reason, because it's not like something you can throw away after a couple of uses. You can keep on rewashing it and using it over and over. So then I blend my concealer with the pointy side of the beauty blender, and then for my contour I blend it with the bottom part. So I blend out my forehead here, and then for the cheek part I blend it upwards, so that way it doesn't make your face look wider, it actually looks like it's contoured. So I would bend it up this way. And if you can't do it at the bottom, I usually turn it to the side, because that allows you to get it at that angle a little bit easier, rather than trying to do it with the bottom and then getting it all over your cheek. So I just do it with that. And you can always do the fish face to find out where your contour line is, like your cheekbone, if you can't figure it out. So I just do that. So like usually when you can't really see, like when you can't see where your concealer and your contour meets, that's when you know like you blended out pretty well and that it's, you know, flawless, I would say. So then you can apply your setting powder. So I've been using a number of different powders. My favorite one to use is the La Mercier one. It's a medium deep color, but I do use the original formula, which worked really well for me too. That's when I want to use a more bright appearance. So if I want a brighter appearance, since my concealer is not super light, I can get away with using like a translucent like the Patrick Starr, or even the translucent La Mercier. I would recommend either or if you guys want to try them. If not, you can try out the Shasha Buttercup. It's really affordable, but it's more yellow, so I feel like people with more golden undertones or yellow undertones would appreciate the Shasha, but someone who's like more neutral or like red tone, they would appreciate like the Patrick Starr. But again, any undertone can use it. That's just what I've noticed, that I prefer the look better. A regular day I tend to go with the La Mercier powder because it's more natural looking. So I just put it under my eye like that. and it's really important that your sponge is wet. And I don't pack it on. Also, like, I dab the concealer into the, so I don't pack it on, I just dab my beauty blender onto the sponge. You see all that product? I wipe off the excess so then it's not cakey under my eyes, and then I apply the powder under my eyes. I don't just apply it and do the whole baking thing, because that's what gives you that artificial look sometimes. But to avoid that, that's what I do, so that way it just sinks into the skin and it looks natural. And you just press it on. Like, when you do it this way, you don't have to wipe off the excess powder, or you don't have to wipe off as much excess powder because you barely have any, because you pressed it into the skin. So then you get that more flawless like finish under your eyes or wherever you put your powder. So then after that, I usually set my contour with a darker powder. So I usually go for the Covergirl Ebony Bronze because it's usually right around and it's handy. So I just apply that. If I don't use that, then I tend to go for the Juvais Place blush palette. They have a contour shade in here, and I like to use the contour shade here, the one on the bottom right over here, this bottom color. If I don't use the Covergirl, I'll use this color right here to set my contour. It's the color Abby in the Juvais palette, and if not that, then I set it with my Makeup Forever powder. And for my eyeshadow, I always do like a neutral look with black liner and lashes. So the neutral looks that I usually create, is from my Modern Renaissance palette, or I use the Chart palette, the neutral one. So but I've just got this palette, the Soft Glam palette by Anastasia, and it has a lot of neutral colors in it, so I just use that to create my look. So usually I just go in with a brown color like Rustic or Sienna, and I use that in my crease. Sometimes I use just the Sienna in my crease, and then I just do a liner because my powder, I already set my eyes with the powder, so it has like a lighter color regardless, so I don't really need to add another color. I could just use the one color on my eye just to give it a little color. This is the simple like go-to makeup, very like basic everyday. And for now, I'm just mixing the two colors, the Sienna and the Rustic color, to put in my crease. And then I usually put in the eyelid a color like burnt orange, just to brighten it up just a little bit. And these are all matte shadows. And then for my liner, I like to use the Tarte eyeliner. It's double-ended. It has a felt tip and then like a regular liner on the other side. I don't remember what it's called, but I think it's like the Tarteist liner. I think that's what it's called. So I'm just going to line my eyes and apply my lashes and come back and do the rest of my face. So I applied my lashes on and I did my eyeliner off camera. Very simple, quick, straight to the point. And I do have a number of different lashes I like to use. I can do a separate video on like lashes that I like, that are affordable, but the lashes I'm wearing for this video is the Ardelle 600 lashes, and they're kind of wispy and they have like spaces in between them, but they're really pretty and they look really natural. So either this lash or I have some other lashes that I really like to wear, but this is what I'm wearing for this video. So this is pretty much the main part of my makeup routine. I never really wear blush much, but when I do, it's usually like a natural colored blush. So I usually go with like a plum color, or even the color in the middle here. It's like a reddish brown color, so it's not very like bright or obvious that I'm wearing like a blush, and I just swirl that on. I tend to stay away from blushes. I don't really wear too many blushes. I just do it here and there if I feel like it, if I'm in the mood. And of course I do have like mascara, and if you guys notice, I don't contour my nose just because it's like, I just don't, because I'm okay with the way that my nose looks. But after that I just add my highlight. I usually go for Max Gold Deposit on my cheeks, and sometimes I wear the Jackie Aina one, but I also like to wear the one Zara. But for this video I'm going to wear the Zara highlight, and the Juvais Place palette is the first highlight in the palette. So I'm going to wear the color Zara because it's a bronze color and it's very natural looking, for like a everyday kind of look. It's not super like it's not like the Fenty Trophy Wife. So just apply that. It's bringing out that zit on my face. I always get a lot of compliments when I wear this highlight because it looks so nice. So I just apply that. So that's for the highlight. Typically if you want to like diffuse it, I would use the brush that I use for like my powder over it, like the brush that I used to wipe off my powder. I would use it over it just to diffuse it if I want, but sometimes I don't. But that's like if you're in the mood to do that, just to make it less in your face. And then the last thing that I do is apply my lipstick and set my face. So for lipsticks, I tend to wear a lot of like neutral colors on camera when I am recording videos that are just makeup reviews or whatever. If I'm just talking about something, I'll wear something that's really neutral because I love brown and nude lipsticks, or like pinky nudes. So for this, I'm just gonna pop on this NYX Lingerie lipstick. I don't know the color. It's the color 10, the color Teddy. So I'm just gonna pop on the color Teddy by NYX Lingerie. So last but not least, the last thing I do is just set my makeup. I tend to use the Max Fix Plus setting spray. Of course you can use whatever spray you like. So I just do that. And it's important that you set the makeup so it can look like the makeup has been like lived in, especially if you use a lot of powders or you use very matte foundation or whatever. It's good to set it with a spray afterwards because then it gives the makeup like a more natural finished look. It doesn't look like it's just dry, cakey on your face. It just makes it melt into your skin more. So that's pretty much it. That's what I do to create my basic go-to makeup looks. I will include everything in the description box if you guys are interested.